Hello and welcome to Elizabeth's Craft Room. Today we're going to look at a stamp set called Mediterranean Moments. This really jumped out at me from the catalogue. I really liked the subtle kind of sketched ideas here, but I was a little bit worried about how well I would be able to paint them. Or colorise them, and I've actually found it's been really fun to do. So I wanted to show you a couple of samples today. Some of these have been or will be on my blog just as pictures, but I just wanted to show you. So with this one here, I taught this at our team training, and what was interesting was that everybody's looked very different when they finished, depending on how they had actually coloured them. Now this was done with Aqua Painters. This one here, I've stamped the bigger image in the background on designer paper and then just coloured in the cat on the chair. I haven't added much colour there to the cat itself. This one here, again, the largest image I've stamped as a bit of a background, just this time onto vanilla paper, cardstock, but I have daubed around the edge and then just added some colour. Now this one was with the watercolour pencils, and so you can see quite a subtle look on there. And then finally this one, which we're going to do today, something that occurred to me when I received a swap which had its outline embossed in copper. Now that was a Christmassy one, but I thought, you know, I hadn't thought of doing that. So I had a little go and I'm actually really pleased with it. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how I've done this. Right, we'll start off by doing the copper embossing on this. So I'm going to wipe over with our embossing buddy, which stops you getting little bits where you don't want them. Little bits of embossing powder where you don't want them. Cuts down on the static, and then I'm going to ink up all over with the clear, sticky Versamark ink. And stamp that down. Now I've drawn a line across the back. I don't put labels on my on the back of my clear mount stamps because I find it easier to stamp without the labels, but sometimes you need a line to see how to stamp that straight, and so I've just made sure I've got a line on the back that gets that more or less straight, especially when it's quite tight on the cardstock. Okay, just done there. So let's now pop the copper embossing powder all over the top, and then we'll see whether I did get that line straight. It's looking good. Now the copper embossing powder looks kind of quite brown, I would say, when you first put it on. The magic comes when you heat it. Just see a little stray piece there. It shouldn't be there. I think other than that, that looks good. So let's put this to one side. And then I'll bring in my heat gun and make a noise. Well, to be honest, that looks so lovely. You could just leave it like that, but I'm going to add a little bit of colour as I did in my original one. Get rid of that little bit of excess embossing powder. So what I did with my original was just to do a little bit of watercolour painting with some inks. So I've got some Tip Top Taupe, and I've got some Pear Pizzazz here. I'll start off with those. So I'm just going in where the greenery is and just adding a little bit of green. Now the thing is with this, the embossing edge will help to keep you inside the lines if that worries you. So it's actually quite a nice way of painting in, because it does tend to contain the area that you're painting it into and dropping the ink into. And as you can see, you don't need to add a lot of colour to something like this to just give it that finished look. You're not going to want to paint, paint everything in here. It's just the impression of it. Okay. Now I can let that dry and come back and add a little more. What I'm going to do next though is to use some of the taupe, and I'm going to go in first of all with just quite a pale colour and just wash that over. Now the thing is here, I am using just regular Very Vanilla paper. If I want to really start to build up this colour and have it quite heavy, then I'm going to need to use a watercolour paper or the shimmery white. But because I'm just going to add a little bit of colour to this, I'm not trying to add loads and loads of water to it. And I'm being careful with how much water I'm adding to my brush. I can get away with doing this on the Very Vanilla, or indeed you could do it on Whisper White as well. So I'm just putting a bit darker underneath those arches there. A bit of a darker bit there. There, I can see a little bit of greenery that I've missed. And then again a little bit darker there, and then just fading out. Go back in with my green, because I can see a little bit of greenery right through at the other end. There's a little bit there as well. Now I could go ahead and add more. I think I am going to colour in this little pot down here. Maybe this little pot here on this side as well. But I'm not going to do any more. I'm going to just leave it alone. It really does look very pretty, doesn't it? I'm going to do a greeting on this card, and I'm going to use the Avant Garden. It's one of our Celebration sets. It's got a couple of little bits in there that are rather nice. I've got this little dotty piece, and I'm also going to have a Happy Birthday Wishes. So I'll just pop that up on some blocks. I'm going to use Old Olive as my background card, as I did on my my sample piece. What I will do is, taking the Pear Pizzazzing, because that's the one I've got here, I'm just going to use these little dots and put some texture on the back of the card. The Pear Pizzazz is actually slightly paler, but because we're adding ink onto cardstock, you can still see that. I don't need to go all over the middle because that bit will be hidden, but there we go. So can you see it's just given a little bit of texture to the card. And then on a little scrap I'm going to stamp the Happy Birthday Wishes. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out with some oval dies. Now I've cut these out with my stitched framelits, which I just love to death, and I'm using them all the time. You could do this with oval punches or with plain ovals, whatever you've got. But I've just cut that out there, and I did use a little bit from the middle. That could have been a bit more central, couldn't it? That's so as not to waste the layer. Just stick that down, that little wiggle to get that straight. Oh, a little bit further over there. There we go. And I'm going to glue that straight down onto the card base. So I don't know if I said, but that was a tip-top taupe layer I used, which is actually a slightly different colour than I used last time. And this time I've done a couple of layers of the ovals, again with the tip-top taupe and the very vanilla, with those happy birthday wishes. And I'll pop that up on a dimensional. And just layer that over in the corner. So as you can see, you didn't have to add very much colour to that image to just really make it pop, and that embossing I think makes it rather special. So thank you for visiting Elizabeth's Craft Room today. I hope you've learned something new, thinking about doing outline stamps with embossing and then colouring in, and see what kind of different looks you can get to. Thanks for visiting today, and I hope to welcome you back again soon.